I paid the nanny to raise my child, my husband paid her for something else. I was at my parents' house for the holidays when I opened the camera app on my phone. I told myself it was a normal thing to do, that I just missed my daughter and wanted to see her face before she fell asleep. The house looked the same as always, familiar down to the smallest details. That comfort lasted exactly 3 seconds. My husband moved through the living room with a confidence that didn't include me. The nanny followed him, close enough that there was no space left for doubt. They weren't whispering or sneaking. They weren't acting like people who feared being caught. They looked like people who believed they owned the place, and maybe they did, in the ways that mattered most. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I sat perfectly still and watched, because my body seemed to understand something my mind was still trying to protect me from. This wasn't a moment. It was a system. She is 14 years younger than him. I remember interviewing her at our kitchen table, thinking she seemed gentle and responsible. I remember telling myself I was lucky to have found someone I could trust. I paid her to keep my child safe. He paid her to stay silent. When I finally stopped the video, my hands were shaking, but my thoughts were terrifyingly clear. I realized I had already crossed into the part of the story where nothing could be unseen. I didn't confront him. Not then. I needed to understand the shape of what I was dealing with. I needed to know how long, how often, how deep. So I kept watching. Over the next days, the cameras showed me a version of my home I didn't recognize. When the children were at school, the house became quiet in a way that felt wrong. He gave instructions. She followed them instantly. There was no discussion, no hesitation. Their dynamic wasn't built on affection. It was built on control. He decided where she stood, what she did next, when she could leave a room. And she accepted it like it was normal, like it had been happening long enough to feel routine. The most disturbing part wasn't what they did, it was how ordinary it looked to them. Like this was simply how the household functioned now. They spent time in our bedroom, the one space I still thought of as mine. The camera caught them entering together, unbothered by the photos on the walls, the traces of my life everywhere. That room held years of memories, arguments, reconciliations, late-night conversations. And they treated it like a borrowed space with no history attached. While they were in there, the television played in the living room. Children's voices drifted through the house, bright and innocent, completely disconnected from what was happening behind closed doors. That contrast hollowed me out. It wasn't just betrayal. It was desecration. I slept at my parents' house like a guest in someone else's life. I smiled through dinners, answered questions automatically, pretended I was fine. Inside, I was quietly cataloging everything. Times. Patterns. Behaviors. I wasn't preparing for a confrontation. I was preparing for survival. When I came home, I decided to stay silent. Silence gave me power. Silence gave me clarity. He kissed me hello like he always did. The nanny kept her distance, polite and professional, like we were strangers who had never shared anything darker than small talk. My daughter ran to me, arms open, laughter bright. I held her longer than usual, breathing her in like she might disappear if I let go. I told myself I could handle an affair. I told myself I would confront him when I was ready, when I had enough proof to stop the lies before they started. Then my daughter shattered what little denial I had left. We were all in the living room. It was an ordinary moment, the kind that usually passes without meaning. My daughter ran toward the nanny, reached up, and in the most casual voice imaginable, called her mom. Not a mistake. Not confusion. It sounded practiced. Comfortable. The room went silent in a way that felt deafening. The nanny froze. My husband didn't look at me. And in that pause, I understood that this wasn't just something that happened to me. It was something that had been quietly happening to my child. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed months of memories with new eyes. The times my husband insisted the nanny stay late. The way he dismissed my discomfort as jealousy. The moments my daughter seemed more attached to her than expected. I had trusted them both. I had trusted my home. I went back to the recordings, this time not just watching, but studying. I saw how my husband positioned himself as the center of everything. How the nanny's role expanded far beyond childcare. How my absence created space for a new hierarchy to form, one where I was no longer necessary. I documented everything. Payments. Schedules. Footage. I wasn't angry yet. Anger would come later. Right now, I needed the truth preserved, because I knew what he would do when confronted. He would deny. He would minimize. He would tell me I was imagining things. He always had. The days passed in a strange fog. I cooked. I cleaned. I played with my daughter. I laughed at the right moments. All the while, I felt like a ghost in my own home, watching another version of my life unfold without me. The hardest part wasn't seeing them together. It was realizing how deliberately he had allowed my role to be replaced. Comfort. Authority. Emotional closeness. These weren't accidents. They were choices made again and again, each one erasing me a little more. I thought about the woman I had been when we hired the nanny, confident, trusting, certain that my family was solid. I wondered when that certainty had been taken from me, and why I hadn't noticed sooner. I still haven't confronted him. Not yet. I'm waiting for the moment when silence stops being protection and becomes permission. I won't let that happen. I don't know exactly how this story ends. But I know this. I am done being erased quietly. I am done being replaced in my own home. And I will not let my child learn that love means disappearing. This isn't just a story about cheating. It's a story about power, betrayal, and a woman who finally sees the truth and refuses to look away.